What is going on, everybody? This is going to be our NFL trade deadline preview. My name is Jett. I'm the director of content at Blitzalytics, and with me today is Nicholas Mullick. He's one of our writers. He writes for the New York Jets as well. He will be a scout sometime in the future. Nick, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Would be better if it wasn't for that Jets game. But
yeah.
at least I have the Jaguars, which is another good choice, number two. But I've been doing good. Football's been awesome. I watched the Saints game. It was pretty fun, even though it was kind of boring. But yeah, I've been doing good. How about you, Jett?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Dolphins fan. Obviously, I'm not in a great spot right now. We're 1-6, and everything on the defensive end is seemingly falling apart. Tua has looked good since he's returned from injury. I know a lot of people out there calling for Brian Flores to be fired.
Why?
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely.
It's like saying that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense is the worst in the division. Meanwhile, you have like Sam Darnold, who I'm a big Sam Darnold guy. Yeah. He stinks, but It's like saying that it's I don't understand that. I'll just explain it here. Brian Flores brought this team years ago, and they got deleted by the Baltimore Ravens, 58-10. Yeah. He got that team to 5 wins, and he got a team that was projected to be, mediocre to 10-6. Enough trying to get this guy fired. He saved this team. Yeah. If it wasn't for that one questionable call he made with the screen pass in the end zone, that's the only thing I'm not agreeing with. Yeah. Everything else though, why are you going to get rid of this guy?
Yeah, Brian Flores is not the problem at all. I think it really the main problem right now is our GM, Chris Greer. He's made a lot of questionable decisions now that we've seen some of these draft picks play for some time in the league now. I think he needs to go sooner rather than later.
Yeah, the drafting has been horrendous. Yes, and I got to tell you, this Noah Igbenogany guy, you guys should cut him. He's terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I mean, at the time, people were expecting it to be a project, and this project has been a failure so far. And honestly, it may be time to move on sooner rather than later.
I don't hate Austin Jackson, but I hear they're moving him to guard now, which I'm going to watch that film on him because I liked Austin Jackson, but he's not working at it. I do love the Eichenberg pick, and I still hate that the Jets passed on Eichenberg in the second round.
He has struggled a little bit. In regards to Austin Jackson, I think he'll be used more as a depth piece in the future. I don't think he's going to be a starter for the Dolphins or really any other team. I don't just think he's that kind of player, but it's going to be very interesting to see how the Dolphins attack this trade deadline. And why don't we start getting into all the teams and how they're going to attack their respective deadlines. Nick, I'll ask you this first. What is one thing that you want to see happen come NFL trade deadline?
Honestly, the trade deadline is my favorite part of the season except for scouting. But I'd love to see as many trades happen, but I want to see trades that make sense, especially if it makes sense, because we've seen in the past, I'll give an example, the Hopkins trade, which, of course, Bill O'Brien is the reason why that happened. But I want to see trades that make sense and not make sense. And you trade for, some pennies on the dollar. I remembered it was years ago, this was during the 80s. I think it was the Schuler, even though Schuler got cut at the end of the deal, but there was originally a move placed where they were going to trade Schuler for pennies on the dollar, but they kept him for another season. And, of course, the Jets have never had a tight end since Mickey Schuler was there, and we're never going to have that because I thought we had it with Herndon. And
yeah, no.
It's a shame, but no. I want to see as many trades, make them make sense, and think right about your moves, because one bad trade and you'll end up like the Houston Texans.
Yeah, for me, the one thing I do not want to see, I know we're hearing a lot of these Deshaun Watson rumors going maybe potentially to the Dolphins, maybe the Panthers are now involved. I do not want to see him traded to the Dolphins. We have such little draft capital left. We're just going to be giving up all of that and trading for a guy that, while the reports are saying that he would play this year if given the opportunity, I just don't want to deal with this kind of situation. Tua Tagovailoa is not the problem. It's more our defense. Focus on the defense. Focus on the offensive line. A trade for Deshaun Watson is something that I do not want to see come happen trade deadline.
I doubt it happens. I really doubt it happens. Like, I'd love to see it happen, especially like an NBA style trade. But listen, it's not going to happen. Like, it's too risky. The old phrase, the risk is not worth the reward. And I'm probably going to use that this week in my Survivor pick article when I speak about it. But when I look at the Dolphins, I'm a pro Tua guy, and when he had some bad throws this year, he had some bad throws. It's not his problem though. The is abysmal.
Yeah.
And the defense has been brutal too. So I give Tua another year. If he doesn't pan out, then I'd start looking for a QB. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's not going to be this generational type talent that maybe some people thought he would have been. But I think he could be a very serviceable quarterback in the NFL. Obviously, the verdict is still out. But let's move on to our first segment. We're going to be talking about some buyers, some sellers, and some teams that we think should be staying put. Nick, who is someone that should be buying at this deadline?
Let's start out with our division for who's buying. Well, our division really isn't going to buy too much, but no. I could definitely see Buffalo potentially buying buy low candidates, but that team's super stacked. But I could see them buying at a Marlon Mack running back. Listen, I like Singletary. I think he's good, but I don't know what they're doing with Zach Moss.
Yeah.
I've watched some of the Bills. I don't know what they're doing with him. I could potentially see them buying low there, but the Bills I'd say the Bills will mostly be avoiders though. But
yeah, I mean, for me, I'll go over to another team in the AFC. The Kansas City Chiefs have not looked great at all. But
I don't know if they're going to be. I don't know if they're going to be buying.
I don't know if they're going to be buying, but I think if they can maybe add a couple pieces on the defensive end, I don't know if it's going to solve all of their problems, but still, on paper, this is still one of the best teams in the AFC. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes has thrown a ton of interceptions. A lot of them haven't even been his fault, but overall, the offensive line hasn't been as good as we expected. Travis Kelce is actually honestly looking like the age is catching up to him. I think that if they're not going to win the division, in my opinion, I think their best chance right at this moment is a wild card. But if they want to somehow get some sort of depth on that defense, I think it's definitely a possibility.
I could see it happening, but here's the issue. You got to look at the salary cap. Because I don't know, is this the year Mahomes' contract starts off with that gigantic $500 million?
It's coming. I don't know if it's this year, but it's definitely on its way.
It's coming, but here's the point. Those contracts they signed are going to kick in, and if you buy, it's going to be a 1-year rental.
That's true.
And I even watched what Ashton said, and if they were going to buy, they got to buy at running back. But
yeah,
I just don't see how the Chiefs. I just don't see how the Chiefs buy. They're going to be cap crunching for the next few years.
I mean, one guy that I have been hearing that they may try and acquire would be Emmanuel Ogbah from my Dolphins. I've been hearing his name being thrown out to potentially someone like the Chiefs. Obviously, like you're saying, that the cap could be an issue, but if there's someone that the Chiefs could acquire, maybe potentially someone like him or someone comparable to him. But I get what you're saying, that the cap is definitely a big issue, and this just might be the year that the Chiefs just might have to sit back and just let the season play out, because it's in the direction where it's going to be a very disappointing season.
Yeah, this game versus the Giants is going to be huge for them. If they lose this game, which I don't know if I want to take them in, they're going to be a spoiler. They're going to be in my top 5 Survivor.
Yeah.
But I don't know about them. I really don't. They're going to be in I debated whether putting them 4 or 5 in my top 5 Survivor. But I don't. I just can't trust them now. And I don't see them buying. I could, unless it's a buy low candidate. But again, those contracts are going to kick in soon, and when they kick in, it's going to be a heck of a mess.
It's definitely I totally get where you're coming from. But do you have another buyer that you expect to be at the trade deadline?
Yes, I do have. Let me go through my notes here. I do have the Colts buying actually at the deadline. Listen, I like Carson Wentz. I'm glad he's with Frank Reich now, but he needs another receiver. Like, T.Y. Hilton almost pulled an Andrew Luck and retired in the mid-preseason with his neck issue. And again, the Colts would have lost 2 franchise players that in the same time frame. The Colts they're going to be one of the biggest what-ifs in NFL history, but they need to get another receiver. I like Pittman. I think Pittman's all right. Paris Campbell is a bit on the mass side, but quick question: name me another Colts receiver.
Zach Pascal, or it's like it's. Paris Campbell hasn't been able to stay healthy. Like, it's just like
it's a mess. I could see them potentially also the Colts getting a linebacker. Like, I love Darius Leonard. He's the heart and soul of this defense. He is the quarterback of this defense, but the linebacker core is a mess if he's out. And the secondary is also kind of brutal, too, with the corners. Like, the one reason why I didn't take Indianapolis against Houston is because we didn't know if their cornerbacks or their secondary was going to be active or healthy. Right. And I like Xavier Rhodes, but durability has been the big issue.
Yeah.
I could see the Colts, getting more depth at cornerback.
Yeah, I mean, we could potentially go back to the wide receiver position. Would you see them going out and getting someone like a Michael Gallup?
I think Michael Gallup's. But if I were to guess, that's a tough one. I could see it, but it's got to depend. It's going to depend if he's still on IR, because I don't think you can trade a player if he's on IR.
No, I think he's expected to come off the IR. I don't know if it's going to be this week, but if it's by next week, then obviously that's after the deadline. So that's something to keep an eye on. But I think in regards to Michael Pittman, I think he's going to be a great wide receiver 2 on a team. I just don't think he has wide receiver 1 type capabilities. He's looked great. Carson Wentz and him have seemed to form a nice connection. But I think wide receiver and potentially someone in the secondary, those would be good options to target if they do end up buying at this deadline.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that's it's going to be very interesting what they do, and I trust Chris Fowler too. He's made some great moves.
He has,
and I could see them getting an offensive lineman, but their O-line's great, and Quentin Nelson's this generation's Joe Thomas.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm still annoyed that I used one of the picks that we got for Sam Darnold on him because I wanted him so badly.
Oh, I know.
I love Notre Dame offensive linemen. By the way, they're like the cream of the crop when it comes to offensive linemen.
Yes.
But I so badly wanted him, and when I saw the Colts use one of those picks, I'm like, no.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on a lot of these drafts, we see some of these players that our teams could have taken. It just hurts, but props to like someone like a Chris Ballard nailing a lot of his picks, because he's gotten a lot of good guys in the draft for sure.
Yeah.
All right, another team that I think should be buying at this deadline is the Green Bay Packers, and they probably don't want to mortgage their whole future if they're going to go out and get somebody. But if this is going to be Aaron Rodgers last year, and why not give him an extra boost either as another receiver or some potential help in their secondary. They have a couple guys banged up in Kevin King, Jair Alexander. They have not been healthy. I think a couple of guys to potentially look at to trade for. They can it's like a buy low on someone like Brandon Ayuk, who has not been utilized as much as he has in the past with the 49ers. Potentially someone like a Brandon Cooks could be an option. I just think that they have Devontae Adams, and then there's everyone else. And it's been like this for several years now. The Packers continue to not address the wide receiver position. Their defense has looked better, I think, than in the past. They could definitely use some help in the secondary, but one of those options, just like the Colts, I think would be a very good idea for the Packers.
I agree with pretty much all you said, but I don't think receiver's the issue as much because injuries happen. Valdez Scantling. I think Lazard is back from injury. Well, I think no one's discussing this, by the way, because it's Aaron Rodgers. He's the best QB ever. Right. Well, today, but his offensive line's a mess.
Yeah.
I know Bakhtiari's coming back and from his brutal knee injury, and when I knew he got injured, there was no shot the Packers were winning that game in the playoffs. But yeah, they need to get more offensive line talent to protect Aaron Rodgers. That is, the offensive line is key. Oh, yeah. It's key to a team. Look at the Cleveland Browns. Yes. Well, technically not now because they lost both their tackles, but look at how adding Taylor Lewan and drafting Tristan Wirfs, and
it's a huge difference.
How they single-handedly changed. Yeah. No one mentions that.
No one does. It's amazing. Like if the Dolphins actually had a competent offensive line right now, we would be talking about it. Like we could talk about this for a lot of teams. Like if they had competent offensive lines, they would be in totally different spots right now.
That's one of the reasons why I like Joe Douglas. And there are plenty of reasons to hate Joe Douglas. We'll probably get to that later on due to the Joe Flacco trade, which I hate so much. But the one thing I like about him is he knows the offensive line is the most important part of the offense. He invested in Mekhi Becton, who I still think is the best offensive lineman in that division. I like Deion Dawkins, but with a guy that size and the way he moves just great. I also like Vera Tucker. Vera Tucker's a great pick. He's the best pick in this draft class so far. I like the Morgan Moses pick up too. But my point being is the offensive line helps the quarterback so much, gives him so much. Look, like excluding like Russell Wilson because he's never had a good offensive line, and you could blame John Snyder for that, but. Offensive line can single-handedly change the offense, but absolutely Packers should. I could say they need more of a guard than a tackle because Bakhtiari's coming back. But if I'm them, definitely upgrade at guard.
I agree with everything you said as well. So do you have another? We'll go to one more buyer. Who's someone you got?
I could see. That's a tough one. I could see the Titans buying.
Okay.
Many people don't mention this because, they're great. They got Derrick Henry, which, by the way, Derrick Henry is the best running back in football. Do not at me.
I agree. I agree with that.
We are witnessing a Hall of Famer on our eyes. Like, he's great, but watching the Titans, because I the Jets Titans game, which was the only fun moment I'm probably going to have this season. But there's something that I'm noticing with the Titans. Like, their O-line is not good. Their O-line is not good at all. And I could see them upgrading there. I could see them going after a wide receiver as well because, listen, Julio looks done. He looks done.
He does.
I've seen him play. He looks like he doesn't want to play football anymore. And that might not be it. I don't know, but there's something mentally off about Julio right now. And I noticed that. He was like, when he's in Atlanta, he's like, boom, pow, goes through an hour. I don't know if it's because of the play calling. I don't know if it's this, but I think the Titans should invest in getting another third receiver because look at how that turned out. And I like Nick Westbrook, but they need to get another receiver. Like you said, like Gallup would probably. I think Denzel Mims as a possibility. But, a buy low candidate. But absolutely the Titans I could see buying as well.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'll go to my final buyer that I think should definitely look to improve their team. The Baltimore Ravens, I think, for me, the biggest target, in my opinion, should be the running back position. They've been a rushing dominant team the past several years. Obviously, a lot of that is attributed to Lamar Jackson, but they haven't had they signed a bunch of guys that were good 3 or 4 years ago, like Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell, Devontae Freeman. They have Tyson Williams, but the problem with him, he's not good at pass protection and has had some fumbling issues. I think they need to add a guy that can run downhill, like a Marlon Mack. His name has been thrown out there a bunch of times. I think that would be a perfect fit for the Ravens. Wouldn't take that much to acquire him. Obviously, the Ravens have a bunch of other issues on their offensive line. Defensively, they've looked okay. Obviously, the linebacking core hasn't been as great as expected, but for me, I think to target someone like a Marlon Mack would be ideal in getting this, because Lamar's been throwing the ball a lot. Just to get this rushing attack back on track, I think would be a great idea.
I could see it happening, but I have them more as avoiders.
Okay.
I don't think they really need to do too much yet. And another case, they got to get healthy. They're getting healthier. but I think they're going to be more sellers, in my opinion, especially like with the running back where they have. I've heard Tyshawn Williams being mentioned as like a late round pick they could get. I could see Devontae Freeman, possibly Le'Veon Bell. My goodness, these names, like if this was years ago, they'd be the best running back core ever. Latavius Murray, it's amazing. But I could see them more being sellers.
Okay,
but it'll be interesting to see what the Ravens do. But listen, I trust the Ravens, I really do. And Eric, I think his name's Eric DeCosta, right? The GM.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yes, if I'm wrong, I apologize if he's listening to this right now. I trust him. He's made some great moves. I really trust the Ravens organization-wise to make moves. So we'll see what they do.
Yeah. Yes, it is Eric DeCosta. You are right. So if he is listening, he'll be very happy to know.
Okay, thank goodness. Thank goodness.
All right. Yeah, there you go. All right, let's shift gears to some teams that we think will be selling at this deadline. Who's your first one?
To sell?
Yeah, who's your first one to sell?
I'm gonna go with Philadelphia that's an easy one. I mean, listen, I like Jalen Hurts, by the way. He's going to be a lot of people are like down on him. And another thing about the Eagles I don't understand is Nick Sirianni, which I never heard of before he got hired as the head coach for the Eagles.
Yeah.
But can you please, and I'm asking you this, can you please utilize your running backs? What is he doing? But that's besides the point. But I definitely see them selling at the deadline. I could see them getting rid of bad contracts like the Zach Ertz move. They already got rid of his contract. And I like Tay Gowan too. They were going to trade up for him in that draft.
Mm-hmm.
I remembered having my notes here. They said potential trade-ups in the third day. Tay Gowan, Eagles are looking to trade up, and then Arizona snatched them.
Yeah.
Which not a lot of people like to talk about.
No.
Yeah, I could – and I'll give you some names I could see them selling. I could see them getting rid of JJ Arcega-Whiteside, who's been a bust. But a lot of people don't mention this, and a lot of Eagle fans are probably not going to disagree with me. I could see Lane Johnson being moved.
Really? Okay.
Here's my explanation why. I like Johnson, number one. I think he's a great tackle, but he's starting to enter the decline phase of his career. I don't think he's had a healthier season since that Super Bowl win that they had. His contract's getting up there is being very, very bad. They already have Jordan Matilla. Yeah, I butchered your name. I'm sorry if you're reading this. Andre Dillard, who is getting better. He's a slow learner. He's getting better at the offensive tackle position. Why not try to, get some extra draft capital or do an Osweiler effect, which I'll explain in a few. Trade him away. I don't think they need the Osweiler effect here, but trade him away, get extra draft capital, and even a few players to rebuild your team. Get rid of a contract that's going to be expensive because you already have the tackles. Yeah. You already have the offensive tackles. And Johnson is going to be in more of an injury-plagued mess. I hope not, because I still like him, but I could see them potentially trading him.
What are your thoughts on potentially someone like Darius Slay being moved?
It's going to be tough. He's not been good this season.
No.
If you're going to trade him, it's going to be either a late-round pick or an Osweiler effect. I'll explain this now. So an Osweiler effect is, of course, named after Brock Osweiler, who is, in my opinion, the worst signing in Texan history. And I knew that was going to be a disaster because why the hell would you sign a quarterback who wasn't even good in and sign him to a massive contract right out the blue? But basically, 1 year, he was god-awful. He was the worst quarterback in the NFL during that time. So the Texans didn't have a lot of salary cap to, move on from him. So what did? They traded a second-round pick, a high draft pick, to the Browns to get rid of his awful contract. And the Browns even admitted they were interested in the second-round pick, not Brock Osweiler. Right. Got him on the team. He was cut during final cut days. but wonder who that second-round pick turned into. You might know him. Nick Chubb.
Wow.
Well worth it.
Wow. Yeah.
Well worth it.
Well, yeah.
So that's why when I say they might use the Osweiler effect, that's something I like to do. Like, people are saying I even graded the Stephen Weatherly trade. They said, "Oh, that's an Osweiler move." I'm like, "No, that's not an Osweiler effect. That's just a salary dump. Yeah. That's just a pick swap. That's just salary dump. If it's a high, like, second or first round pick, and they trade that away and get a lower pick, that's an Osweiler effect move." And I could see a lot of teams potentially using that.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree with that. I think an easy one as well, a seller, was probably since they signed a lot of guys in the offseason to 1 year veteran deals, like Philip Lindsay, they have David Johnson, Mark Ingram, some of those names we could see on the move. Obviously they're getting up there. Well, David Johnson and Mark Ingram are getting up there in age. We mentioned someone like Brandon Cooks potentially on the move as well. Obviously the big name here is Deshaun Watson. Honestly, he's probably not going to get moved, but there's still plenty of rumors flowing around out there about potentially someone like the Dolphins or the Panthers, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But I just think that
here's the problem though too. He has a no trade clause. He has a no trade clause, and I think the only team, well, two teams I know that he said no to that were interested are the Eagles, and I think the other team was the Jaguars before they basically got Trevor Lawrence. So that trade was never going to happen. But it's I don't see the Texans. I don't know what's happening with the Watson stuff, but it's too risky. I can see Cooks being moved. And I could see them Osweiler affecting David Johnson. Yeah. Maybe they could. Oh God! I just dropped my earphones. You're good. I'm sorry, but maybe they could do is. They could also affect him. Hey, maybe they could try to get, DeAndre Hopkins and, get a second round pick and fourth round pick swaps again. Joke over, but I could. That was the worst trade I think I've ever seen. Say what you want about the Herschel Walker trade. That trade made no sense with DeAndre Hopkins. With the Herschel Walker trade, the Vikings needed a running back and were in playoff contention. Yes, the Cowboys used the lucky. With like him in Arizona, he was like a yearly fantasy player, but with in Houston, it's just not working. And I could see them trading him at the deadline because they had Lindsey, they have Mark Ingram, who is kind of underrated, and I'm still shocked he's going today. But yeah, I could see the Texans moving on from David Johnson.
All right, give me. We'll go with one more seller. Who's someone you're thinking is gonna sell at the deadline?
I'll go with Atlanta. Atlanta's definitely a seller. Who? Everybody is on the chopping block. Well, except for Kyle Pitts and AJ Terrell, but everybody's a seller. Everybody. I'll go with the guys I listed. Cordell Patterson. This is the highest value I think I've ever seen since he was overdrafted in the first round by Minnesota. And I like Cordell Patterson. He's a great special teams guy. He's the Swiss Army knife of the Falcons. He's heavily impressed with his running game, his receiver game. Big issue. He's kind of turning 30 now, like next season. And the Falcons are rebuilding. I definitely ship him off to a team. Hayden Hurst. Early in the season, for some reason, they were using Hayden Hurst a lot. And I love Hayden Hurst. Great story. For the video that they released of him, how he was a Pirates pitcher. And hear more into his story. But I can see the Falcons moving on from him ever since they drafted Kyle Pitts. Which team? I could see a tight end needy team taking him on. Caleb McGarry's been a bust offense. He's had health issues. I could see them moving on from him. Dante Fowler, who always gets moved at the trade deadline. He's like every year. Oh, if you had to team, where's Dante Fowler at? Yeah, he's on the trading block. But I like Dante Fowler. I mean, he had a failed run in Jacksonville, but that's due to coaching. But he's had flashes, and he's done well in Atlanta as well. He has. I could see him being moved. And I can see them Osweiler affecting Grady Jarrett because he has a $20 million cap hit.
Yeah.
And they have 2 second-round picks, the Titans pick and the Atlanta pick. And I can see them using the Atlanta pick to get rid of Grady Jarrett's awful contract. I see it happening. I don't know. But listen, teams are always attracted to draft picks. They are. They're attracted to draft picks. And I could see them Osweiler affecting that move. We're doing what the Dolphins did years ago with Kiko Alonso and Byron Maxwell, trading from a first-round pick, moving down a few rounds, getting rid of those awful contracts, and it worked out for you guys. Yeah, it really did.
It did. Yeah. Let's actually talk about the Dolphins and then the Jets as well.
Oh God.
What do you think? How do you think the Jets should be attacking this deadline?
I don't know what they need to sell now and sell quickly. This team is, and I could see them selling C.J. Mosley, but the problem is his contract. But they'd have to Osweiler affect him. But I could see them moving on from him, which I hope they don't because he's had flashes and he's been great. Greg Van Roten, who's terrible. He stinks too. Get him off the team. He's been awful. He's been terrible. Denzel Mims, I could see them getting a late round pick for, and they have draft capital this year. And Joe Douglas has been known to fleece teams. He fleeced the Vikings, Chris Herndon, who should have been cut after this season.
God.
He got the Jamal Adams pick, which I loved Jamal Adams with the Jets, but he's just moving the linebacker. He would be more of a fit at linebacker, but the Jets need to sell. And so I've heard rumors Morgan Moses could be moved, which I understand because he's at the age of, I think, 31 or 32. I might be mistaken with that, but he's getting past this prime, and he's been great. Morgan Moses has been great at the right tackle spot. And George Fant has been a lot better than what I thought he was going to be. He was awful in the Broncos game, but George Fant should be good. But yeah, Morgan Moses I could see being moved. Then again, this GM decides to trade for Joe Flacco, which
what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, I want to hear what you think of that.
Why? Quick question. This is something that I don't understand. What happened to Josh Johnson? He's a veteran quarterback. Why isn't he on the active roster? Was this move necessary? I mean, really? I get the move, but and by the way, out of all quarterbacks, he decided to go Joe Flacco, who even Joe Douglas in the middle of an ESPN broadcast said, we're confident at the quarterback spot with him. Then why acquire him again? Look, I love Joe Douglas. I do. He's made some great moves, but this was this close to being a Hackenberg grade when I was looking at the trade grade. I don't know if you released the article yet, but I was this close to grading it a Hackenberg grade.
The article will be coming out tomorrow, so yeah, you can check out Nick's full reaction to that trade. Yeah, obviously, you can tell what he feels.
Spoiler alert! Very, very, very negative about that. Congratulations, Philadelphia! You got yourself an extra 6th-round pick or 5th-round pick because it's conditional for 4 games, which Zach Wilson's not going to be playing 4 games because of his knee injury.
Yeah,
and that pick's going to be a 5th-round pick. Exactly. And then you have – this is something I also don't understand. Then we'll go to the Dolphins, and I just hate how this team is run.
I know.
This is something I don't understand. You have Robert Saleh going on, I think it was today, saying, we have confidence in Mike White. We have confidence in Mike White as the backup quarterback. Really? You have confidence, right? Then why'd you trade for Joe Flacco?
Exactly.
And I like Saleh, too. I think he'll be better next season. He's been enthusiastic. He's been great so far, even though he's made a few questionable calls. This is a rebuild pain year. He's not going to get fired like some Jets fans want him to.
No, that would be ridiculous to fire him.
The only coach I could see, 2 coaches I could see when they're done are Dan Campbell from the Lions and Urban Meyer from the Jaguars. But I hate the Joe Flacco move. Listen, this is not against Joe Flacco because he was a big help he was a big help during that Ravens game because I was a big fan of Ray Lewis. Growing up, he was I wanted him to get one more ring before he retired.
Right.
And Ed Reed, who ironically ended his career with the Jets, which was a bone thrown at me because I love that read too. But overall, bad trade with the Joe Flacco move. I'm not a fan of it. Hopefully, he proves me wrong. I have confidence that he could because it's Joe Flacco, but we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, so let's talk about my Dolphins a little bit. It's obviously it's an interesting situation to be in because on paper this team is not a 1-6 team. Obviously, we have there's plenty of talent on this team. There are some impending free agents such as Mike Gesicki, Brennan Scarlett, Landon Roberts, Emmanuel Ogbah, who's someone we mentioned before. That the problem is though we have someone like an Xavier Howard who one isn't really playing well and two still probably hasn't gotten over that whole contract situation. Obviously, that could be a potential. I don't know. That's not someone probably will move at the deadline, but I don't know if he will be a part of the short-term future for this Dolphins team. Guys like Byron Jones, which was a big overpay in my opinion. Obviously, it hasn't really panned out. He hasn't really lived up to that contract, but we're in a situation now that since the Eagles have our first-round pick, we have the 49ers first-round pick. Obviously, no one expected, at least a lot of people didn't expect the Dolphins to be in this position right now, giving the Eagles a top 5 pick, top 3 pick, actually. But I think it's the type of thing where there could be guys that could be shipped off, but I don't think it's total like fire sale at the deadline. I think they have to be smart with these moves. I think this is a big deadline for Chris Grier. If not, I think this is going to be his last year as the GM for the Dolphins.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I really do. But listen, a lot of people say this is karma for what the Dolphins did stealing their first-round pick. But listen, the 49ers, they're fine, but I don't see them making the playoffs the way they're playing. And I don't know about the quarterback, too. Trey Lance is not – like he's had flashes, but he's not been good. And Jimmy Garoppolo, I like Jimmy Garoppolo, but I don't see how he does. I could see there is a possibility this team could be a top 10 pick. They still could have that. I mean, do I see it happening? We'll see because the 49ers are good. But listen, keep your heads up high. You still got the Niners pick. It's not the end of the complete world unless that Dolphins pick gets first overall, which I don't see happening because I see the Dolphins getting more wins later in the season. Yeah. But it's not panic mode yet, that pick-wise. But yeah, this is do or die time for Chris Grier.
Yeah,
did you know Chris Grier has been here since Adam Gase was hired?
Yes.
I'm shocked he didn't left after Gase got fired. And this is no disrespect to Chris Grier, but I'm shocked he wasn't fired after Gase got fired.
I mean, he's made some good moves, but there's been more bad moves. And honestly, I think it's time to move on, especially after these past 2 drafts where we had a total of 5 first-round picks. Really, no one really has stood out. I mean, the offensive linemen, no Igbenogany. Tua's been the best out of that bunch, but he still hasn't even lived up to where he was drafted. So it's a very interesting time down in Miami, and hopefully it gets better from here because coming to the season, I was very optimistic. So hopefully things start heading in the right direction.
Yeah. And for all those things, too, people will want it, like saying, oh, they picked this guy over Justin Herbert, which stinks. But let's be real. No one was going to take Justin Herbert over Tua. No one was going to. If that move would have happened, Chris Grier would be out of a job right now if he chose Justin Herbert. Yeah. So, look, like, I'll give you another example. Saquon Barkley for the Giants. If Gale didn't make that pick, the fan base would have been fuming. If there's one thing you know about the Mara family, he wants his fans to be proud.
Yes.
If he didn't make that trade, Gettleman, which I'm no disrespect to Gettleman, but I'm still shocked he's still the Giants GM. But again, just don't panic yet. Like there's still plenty of time. But this is do or die time for Chris Grier and other GMs as well, especially Ryan Pace. Which again, no disrespect to Pace. I don't know why he's still the GM of the Bears either after the whole Trubisky fiasco. But this is do or die time for teams. Make the right moves. If you make the wrong move, you're done then.
All right, yeah. So now what I would like to do is I've been looking at some potential trade scenarios that Pro Football Focus put out on their website, both in the AFC and NFC. And Nick, what I'll do is I'll tell you what the trade scenario is, and you'll tell me if it's something that you would do and if it was something that you think these teams will actually do at the deadline. So you ready to go?
This is like my favorite part of the trade deadline, just looking at all the trade.
Yeah.
I'm like the type of guy that I'll go through anywhere in the trade deadline and see what people project and say, that's a good idea. Like, it's criticism. Everybody loves it's criticism, you know?
Of course. So the first one, we talked about this guy briefly before. This trade has Marlon Mack and a 2023 seventh round pick going to the 49ers for a 2023 sixth round pick. What are your thoughts?
I mean, that's a decent trade, but I wouldn't make it if I'm the 49ers. I do love Trey Sermon. I could see it happening. It's a fine. I give it a meh trade. Like, if I'd be willing to take that trade instead of like a 7-6, maybe a 6-5. That would be something I'd take. But I'd wait on that. And plus, there's plenty of other teams that are going to be interested in Mac. So.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of other teams that are going to be interested in Mac. Like we mentioned, the Ravens could be one of them. Potentially someone like the Chiefs. Let's go on to another one here. Xavier Rhodes going to the Dallas Cowboys for a 2023 fifth round pick.
No, I'm sorry. No, Xavier Rhodes is not going to be moved from the Colts. No, listen, say what you want about his injuries and everything about that. He's still the best corner on this team. That move ain't happening. Sorry.
Yeah, Pro Football Focus is very high on this one. They saying that it's a very high possibility that this happens. I don't see it happening either, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. I don't think it's gonna happen, but it should be interesting to see what happens. Let's do another one. Let's go to the NFC here. Okay, let's do this one. OJ Howard to the Buffalo Bills for cornerback Dane Jackson and a 2022 fifth round pick. Obviously, the Bills have Dawson Knox right now, but would this be something that you would do?
That's a good trade, but I'd have to say no to that one because of course I got Dawson Knox, even though he's dealing with a hand injury. But you need depth at the cornerback position, especially when it comes to playoff time. Injuries could happen. And while Jackson hasn't been that good, he's still a solid depth piece on this defense. I like O.J. Howard. I still think he's underrated in this league. And honestly, I could see the Buccaneers move on more from Brait than Howard. Mm-hmm. But you're going to have to get more. I could see O.J. Howard being traded for like a fourth round pick or a third round pick, but I don't see that being made.
All right, let's do a couple more. This one has Akeem Hicks of the Chicago Bears going to the Los Angeles Chargers for a 2022 fifth round pick.
No. Akeem Hicks is too good on the Bears defense. There's no way he's going. Listen, say what you want about him starting a decline and everything, but his contract is still awful. You're going to need to Osweiler affect him if you want to move on from him.
That's true.
I'm sorry. And you probably are going to mention this earlier. No, Marcus May will not be traded to the Buccaneers. No, even Jack says this. No, not happening. They can't afford him.
All right, let's do I have a Bucks one right here. This one has Duron Harmon going to the Bucks for a 2023 sixth round pick.
I like that trade. The Buccaneers needed secondary help. I love that trade. I mean, I could see them going corner, but safety, they do need depth at that too. And I like that trade a lot.
All right, let's do one more here. This one, okay, this is interesting because I know we disagreed a little bit on the Chiefs buying, but this one has Ryan Kerrigan going to the Chiefs for a 2022 seventh round pick.
That's not a bad trade, but here's the thing: Kerrigan's on a massive decline.
That's the thing. Yeah.
That's a good. Honestly, it's worth the risk. I'd say yes to that. I mean, it's a late. That's a tough trade, actually. I'm gonna say yes to that one.
I mean, it's kind of similar to the move the Chiefs. It would be similar to the move the Chiefs made back in 2019 when they acquired Terrell Suggs. Obviously, they're on different levels throughout their career. But
great point.
yeah, it could be the type of thing where, I mean, obviously the Chiefs are in a much worse position than they were 2019 when they were at the deadline, but it could be a potential.
Here's another example. Jarrell Casey when he was traded to the Broncos.
That's right. Yes.
Because that's another move that was, because Kerrigan doesn't have as bad of a contract as Casey did, but it's sort of like a risk because Casey was dealing with injury concerns and he's been on the decline. But I can see the Chiefs. Listen, the Chiefs are a broken team right now.
They are.
They are a broken team, and I could see them absolutely making a move for Kerrigan.
All right, let's move on to another segment that I have here. So what I'm going to do, Nick, is I'm going to list a bunch of players, and you're going to tell me whether you think they'll stay or whether you think they will go. And if you think they're going to go, maybe just throw out a team or two that you think are potential candidates.
Cool.
All right, first one. Let's go with Derek Barnett.
Yeah, I think he's going to be traded. I like Derek. Listen, people are saying he's a bust, but he made the biggest sack ever in Super Bowl 52 when Tom Brady fumbled that ball. So I'm not labeling him bust because of that. But yeah, Derek Barnett is absolutely going to be a player I could see moving. Teams I could see getting him. I could see the Steelers doing it, even though I think they should be selling. I could definitely see them being a team that gets another one of him that could play. And yes, they do have TJ Watt who's holding this defense together, but the defense is still a mess.
Yes.
Like even though Devin Bush is good, the secondary is putrid, and Terrell Edmonds is just garbage. But yeah, I could absolutely see Derek Barnett added to that defensive line because that's their biggest strength.
Let's talk about
another team I could see because he did. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, another team I could see be moving. Him going to that team, and this could be a little bit of a disagreement with me. I could see Arizona going and acquiring him as well.
Really, okay.
Because listen, a lot of people may disagree with me here. I like Chandler Jones and JJ Watt. Even though Chandler Jones was a Patriot, I still liked him as a player. I hate that he's going to play his final career with the Arizona Cardinals, and you can blame Bill O'Brien for that. Here's the problem, though: they're getting up in age, and they need to get back up. And I do love the player. I think his name's Collins, right? Zaven Collins.
Zaven Collins, correct?
Yes, like him. They need another edge rusher, defensive end piece, and I feel if they get Barnett, he'd fit in their system. I could see him going to Arizona.
Yeah, I would not rule that out at all. That's definitely a good point you throw out there. Obviously, yeah, JJ Watt is up there in age. Obviously, you can only focus on the short term so much. You also got to worry about the future. So it could definitely be a possible
and like we've seen earlier. I didn't mean to bother you there, but like we've seen earlier, Arizona's buyers, they bought on Zach Ertz, and he's been great in Arizona. He looks like a different player.
Yeah, he's been looking at
system. He did. But add another defensive edge rusher piece, and just in case Watt or Jones gets hurt, or if not, you can move him to defensive tackle. I mean, even though Rashard Lawrence, the LSU prospect they took, he's been great, but might as well get another tag team player to help him out.
Why not? Yeah. I mean, the Cardinals, obviously, they're the only undefeated team left in the NFL.
If you were to tell me this, like in the preseason, I would have said you're crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No one, I mean, people maybe had predicted that the Cardinals would maybe get one of those wild card spots, but no one predicted the Cardinals to be 7-0 at this point. It's like they play the Packers this week, so we'll see if they can continue it. Obviously, the Packers will most likely be that Devontae Adams, depending on if he doesn't test negative, but that's going to be fun.
They may be without their defensive coordinator as well.
That's right. Yes.
I heard he may have COVID too. Well, not have COVID. I don't know what's going on with there, but he may have been placed on the COVID list as well. So
okay, interesting. All right, we talked about that Steelers defense a little bit. What do you think about Joe Hayden?
first off, if this was me running the Steelers, I'd sell. But then again, Mike Tomlin is still the head coach for the Steelers for some reason. Yes, I know he's had a winning record. Listen, I like Mike Tomlin, but come on. I mean, that Browns game was inexcusable. Playing down the weekly, playing down the competition's getting ridiculous at this point. You've been in this league so long, and your team continues to play down the competition. And I like Mike Tomlin as a coach. I think he'd absolutely get another job in the NFL. And side note, love what he said in the conference earlier today about the one guy saying, "Oh, you think you'll coach in college? What are you talking about? This guy's been thriving in the NFL, and he's got." Yeah. And the Steelers, they don't fire coaches; they retire or conveniently let their contracts expire.
Exactly.
So he's got a job for 3 more years. What? Coach in college, but besides the point, yeah, Joe Hayden. I think they're going to keep him because they want to go all in for a declining quarterback who should have retired last season. But this defense has been brutal. The secondary has been awful. And I don't see how they trade him. I don't.
All right, let's talk about the 2 Dolphins corners, Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. Do you think either one of them gets moved at the deadline?
That is a good question. I'm going to say no to Byron Jones unless they want to Osweiler affect him, but I could see them Osweiler affecting him next season because they have the 2 first-round picks.
Right.
I don't think they're going to trade Xavier Howard. If I read recently that he was traded, I wouldn't be shocked, but he's just too talented to give up. And again, with the salary, he's upset about that. I've asked for more money when you had that deal 1 year ago. I mean, It's the same thing with Revis. Every year he was pissed off about his contract. I like Xavier Howard too. He's been a great corner, but him complaining about his contract, it's basically the same thing that the Jets did with Revis. Every year he had 40 left on his deal, and he wanted a new contract. He wants a new contract, wants this. It's basically the same thing with Revis. Could I see the Dolphins trade him? No, his contract's too good to let go.
Right.
So I'm gonna go with no. But if I see him being moved to the deadline, wouldn't be shocked.
Okay, let's go to the wide receiver position here. A guy that has struggled mainly because of the offense that is on and the quarterback issues in Chicago. Allen Robinson. Do you think he will be on the move at the deadline?
That's a tough one. The Bears. Listen, I'm going to say no to that because they're all competing for jobs. And if you were to tell me if there's one coach that's absolutely on the hot seat, number one, it would be Matt Nagy. Yeah. And he just tested positive for COVID, and he's out for this next game, which, listen, it stinks. It stinks when that happens. And even though Nagy's a bad coach, in my opinion, it's still the head coach, which is a big loss. But, yeah, their jobs are in stake here. And Ryan Pace is not going to move on from him. I don't see it. If he's moved, I'd be shocked. They'd have to be blown away with an offer, but I just don't see it. And it would hurt Justin Fields' development, and he's not ready yet. I could see Bulls if they Osweiler effect him, and it still makes no sense why they didn't do the Osweiler effect when they got him.
Yeah.
And my answer to that is Ryan Pace, but no, I'm gonna say no with Allen Robinson. It would hurt Justin Fields' development, and they'd have no receiver except for Cole Kmet and Darnell. I think his name's Darnell Mooney.
Darnell Mooney, correct? Yeah.
Yes. Name me another Bears receiver, please.
Jakeem Grant got traded there, and he's just on special teams.
Oh yeah, true. Jakeem Grant, but he's a special teams guy because listen. The only reason why that trade happened, let's be real, it's because Tariq Cohen's not ready to come back, and they need a special teams guy. The guy they had was awful.
Yeah.
And by the way, is Jimmy Graham still in the Bears?
Jimmy Graham is still on the Bears. I think he missed this past game due to injury or COVID, something like that. But he's still on the Bears.
What the heck are they doing with him though? I don't know what they're doing with him.
They know Cole Kmet's their future.
I can see him and Osweiler affected.
Yeah, they know Cole Kmet's their future, and they still wanted to keep Jimmy Graham around. I don't get it, but that's for another day.
I got the answer to you, Ryan Pace.
Ryan Pace, exactly.
Ryan Pace. And this is no disrespect for Ryan Pace, but listen, he's made some bad decisions. And again, again, no disrespect. Like, I'll give him credit. He's made some great late round choices, great late round steals. That, like, remember when Tariq Cohen was taking, people thought he was undrafted, and he stole that. He's made some great late round picks. That's a big positive with Ryan Pace. So I'm not. You can't take that away from him. But he's been doing terrible jobs with offering contracts.
He definitely has done a good job on the draft. Obviously, with David Montgomery, now they have Khalil Herbert, who's another running back.
Khalil Herbert, he could be a player.
Yeah, he definitely could. Yeah. Yeah, this one's actually an interesting one. I'm just looking at an article on CBS.com it's like a list of players that they think could be moved. Another wide receiver currently on the IR, but expected to come back relatively soon. There's been a lot of drama with this player the past several years. Michael Thomas, what do you think about him?
Oh boy, where to start with Michael Thomas? Here's the problem though. His contract. Everybody, when making trades for picks, saying, "Oh, we got to trade this," a lot of people like forget about the contract. Like, look at even though Eli Manning had a no trade clause, look at Eli Manning's contract. They couldn't move on from him, even though say what you want about Eli Manning, what he did with the Chargers, he's still a respectable player. But Michael Thomas's contract's too awful. If they want to get rid of him, which I could see happening, because he's been a total distraction in the locker room. I could see them Osweiler affecting him. And say what you want about Antonio Brown when he was with the Steelers. The only reason why they got that pick is because it's Antonio Brown. He's the best receiver in football. He didn't have injury concerns. Right. That didn't work out for the Raiders.
No.
But with Michael Thomas, he has injury concerns too, because keep in mind, before the distractions happened, he's had constant durability issues. And I think he's only played like 14 games per year. I may be wrong on that. But they got an Osweiler. The Saints, I think they have an extra third because they lost Fondant from Fondant. I'm sorry, I pronounced his name wrong. Terry, the GM from the Falcons, they lost him. And yeah. I apologize if I pronounce names wrong.
You're fine. Yeah,
I know. I just watching this video, guys. If it's anybody in the league, I apologize if I pronounce your names wrong. But yeah, I could see the Saints moving on from him. But Osweiler Beckham the way to go, and they can use that pick they got from the resolution picks just to get rid of him. I think it's this year, right?
I believe so. I don't know 100%.
Yeah. Worst for worst, they still have a third round pick. They could possibly put a third round pick, a second round pick, or a first round pick to get rid of him.
Exactly. Yeah. One thing I want to finish here before we get out of here, Nick, who do you think will which team you think will improve the most after we're done with this deadline?
That is a hard one. That's an interesting. If I were to, it's going to be the team that invests more in the trade deadline. And of course, anything could happen in the NFL. But if I were to make a choice, hopefully it would be Indianapolis because they have holes. I could see potentially Kansas City if they want to, which I don't see them having to do that. The Cardinals, because they've already invested, I could see them benefiting from it. And one other team, and they got to invest, and that would absolutely be the Packers.
Yes, I was going to say the Packers.
Yes, I was going to say the Packers as well.
The Pack, like this is Aaron Rodgers last year. We don't know what their future is going to be like. This is the year they have to just go all in and finally get that other Super Bowl that they've been trying.
This is it. And listen, it may be too early to tell, but I was never a fan of Jordan Love. I still don't understand that draft pick. And from what I've seen from him, and when I've seen him in the preseason, he stinks. Yeah. Like Tim Boyle's better than him, and Matt, who writes for the Packers, would agree with me on this.
Yeah, it was definitely a questionable pick. Obviously, what set off this whole Aaron Rodgers saga, but yeah, that was our NFL trade deadline preview. It's going to be an exciting week ahead. We're going to see plenty of moves probably be made. Some teams going to be selling, obviously. Some teams trying to make their team stronger for a potential Super Bowl run. It's going to be a very fun week ahead, and I know we are both excited for it. One thing I want to point out, obviously both Nick and myself write for blitzanalytics.com. Nick handles all the Jett stuff. He also writes a Survivor column, and he does all the trade grades. So keep an eye out for those articles as well as mine. I do some fantasy football content on a weekly basis, so keep an eye out for that as well. Nick, do you have anything to add before we get out of here?
Yes. Remember to invest wisely. If you're ever watching this, don't overreact to trades, because remember years ago with the Jimmy Graham trade, people were overreacting for the Saints getting rid of him. Meanwhile, they got Max Unger. Don't overreact. And one more, Joe Douglas, please don't mess this up.
Well said, Nick. I appreciate you joining me, and hopefully we'll be back here together.
I appreciate you allowing me to come on.
Yes, this was great. We'll definitely be doing more videos like these. You can definitely check out the rest of the YouTube page where this is posted. So thank you guys for listening. We will see you next time.